All right, we're going to go to work.
You sit on the toilet, don't you? Use that as your meditation.
My wife, not your wife, nor anybody listening to this podcast has eaten a shit sandwich we didn't have a hand in making.
Hello,
Welcome
Rob.
to Recovery Unfiltered. I'm Larry. I'm an
Ain't
alcoholic.
time yet.
Rob,
Shut up, Larry.
Alcoholic. We are not professionals. There are no letters after our names. We know very little. However, you will hear the word God and four-letter word in the same sentence. You will also be offended. So if you are easily offended, just pass us by. This podcast is not for you.
Our opinions are just that. If you don't agree with what we're saying, that's okay. We're going to love you anyways. We are not in any way affiliated with AA.
So sit back, grab a beverage of your choice, and get ready.
Let's go.
Are you serious?
Hello, Robert.
Hey, Larry.
Welcome back.
What's with the drums? That was a new one.
I don't fucking know.
No, at least there was no baby.
Hey, you know what? I'm gonna make an amends right here to our listeners. Are you really swallowing? Did you hear that come across
Turn
the
it up.
microphone?
I sound like shit.
Why are we all seem so low?
I don't know. But see, now I sound good. Don't fuck with it.
There
Okay.
you go with the F-bombs again.
Don't mess with it.
Thank you.
Hey, what you said you were making amends. Which
I
is
am.
Which is a 10
Our
step.
last two episodes, Katie and I were coming down the road, driving down the road, and she was like, Larry, the F-bombs are horrible. And I'm like, that ain't that bad. And then the very next episode, that was the first one we recorded. Then the next one, I think it was 37 that we recorded.
Yeah, that was bad.
It got off the rails.
We were
Doug texted me and says, hey, I ran out of ink counting the F-bombs.
Yeah.
And you know what's funny? And so I want to apologize to our listeners. It did get off the rails a little bit, right? It was pretty bad. So, I mean, for most of the people that know me and know you, it was normal.
Well, we're supposed to be getting better.
It's not normal discussion.
No.
But you got worked up, and then I got worked up, and then I feed off of you because I only do what my sponsor tells me to do.
Yeah. Bullshit. Bullshit.
Hey,
but why did it happen? What didn't we do before both
we didn't
those?
Pray.
We did not.
We didn't pray before either one of those episodes. Do we pray? Now, once again, it's my sponsor's fault.
No, absolutely.
You know, last week we talked about sponsorship, and you know, I follow my sponsor.
And if he doesn't piss you off, you got a terrible sponsor.
My toys, you know, and then the other night I spoke at Primary Purpose, and I said I spoke for, I don't know, 35, 40 minutes.
Not even
20, not even
minutes.
a shit. Not even an ass
No,
came out of my
was
mouth.
great.
Nothing.
It was perfect.
And then the poor guy that came up and got his chip right after I started,
Yeah.
he threw about 5 F-bombs in a matter of 2 sentences.
But did you see why we were geting pushed?
Right.
You know, you're through as you get, and I love her to death, but as you gain sobriety, right, you're supposed to gain maturity, and she was rushing everybody just to get to you. So she's getting 47 years, Jeanette did. I'm going to say her name, I don't care. And she was rushing, hey, everybody's got to make it quick. So she could, you know, so no one left by the time she got hers.
That's funny.
So still, you know, there's still a lot to, you know, even though you got 47 years sobriety, there's still work to be done.
She wanted it, but that's okay. If I have 47 years and I'm still alive,
yeah, well,
I want to make everybody stand on their head and listen to me talk.
I'll be dead. I don't know, what would I be?
47 years old.
I got
I'd be
sober
90,
38. So, I
I'd
mean,
be
by the way,
96.
and my math was wrong because we were talking about Bill last week, who had
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, he had 37 years sobriety, and he got sober at 37 in his age. And I said, well, if I do mine, I said 74, which is stupid, 76. I'll be 76 years old if I make that.
You'll make it.
Well, hey, it's only Sunday.
Yeah, right.
So we have a guest.
Who's our guest?
I don't know. Guest, introduce yourselves. Drum roll. Don't do a fucking drum roll, though.
Hi, I'm Nathan.
Nathan. Okay.
Couldn't help myself.
Perfect.
Hello, Nathan. Welcome in.
What's up, Larry?
Are you nervous?
A little bit.
Nathan's going to tell his story.
You know, that's funny is everybody when they first start is nervous. Jason Allen, when he first started, and he was super nervous, and shit, he went off for 3.5 hours once he got started. So you'll get in, you'll be telling your story, and you'll forget that these microphones are here, and you'll just remember it's, you know, we're just 3 buddies and sitting around talking and telling our stories. So tell us a little bit. Tell us what happened.
All right. I'm going to start where I usually start.
Okay.
About 6 years old.
Wow.
Is when I really first remember anything is around that age. And the reasoning why I remember that age is because of the deaths in the family. My great-grandpa died. My great-great-grandma died. Another great-grandma died. Like all within the same, like, 4 or 5
6
months.
years old that you don't even understand what death is really yet.
Right.
Yeah.
And my great grandpa, he was someone that was. I never met any of my regular grandpas. So my great grandpa was the man figure that I looked up to the most, and still like want to be like him the most out of any of the male figures in my family.
Your dad wasn't around much?
My dad was. We'll definitely get to my dad.
Okay. Sorry, didn't mean to jump ahead.
He's a big part of my resentments and my upcoming. So yeah, that was. After that, some of the memories I have are of my father, of him being verbally abusive to my mom.
Okay.
And always drunk. And
you remember that as a very young age?
Yeah. And I remember going fishing with him real young and being on the side of the bank and not having anything to drink for me, but there was a 12-pack of beer.
Right.
And so then that's where my very first drink was.
Wow.
Was on the side of the river with my dad.
Like you were getting a soda.
Right.
Right.
And I remember it tasting horrible.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we don't drink beer for taste. Never did.
Right. But yeah, that was my first drink on the side of the river with my dad. And then today, now I can realize that at least he was taking me out to the river.
Right. Yeah.
And so I could see the good in things today. It's not just all the bad that I focus on anymore.
Right. How long did it take you to come to that understanding though?
Oh, it was probably within the last couple of years where I really started
understanding that. Okay.
More so looking at the positive in things and being in gratitude instead of just all negative.
Nice. Okay.
So, yeah, and my dad, he was in and out of jail my whole life. I remember many, many times going and visiting him in jail. Some of the times it was behind that glass with the telephone.
Oh, wow.
You know?
Okay.
And then
that's a shitty memory.
And then I remember some of the times where, like at the old Honor Farm, you were able to sit at a table and actually have a real visit. And so I remember calling the cops on my dad as a young kid because him being so verbally abusive to my mom. He was never physically abusive, not in front of me at least. But,
when you say when you were real young, do you know about what age you had to call the cops on him?
Oh yeah, this is still like 7 years old.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then so when I was 8 years old, my grandmother, my mom's mom, was murdered by my dad's uncle. And so
good grief.
So yeah, that turned my whole world upside down.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'd not only lost my grandma right then, but I lost my mom and my dad.
Okay.
Both, because they really went into their addictions at that point. Yeah, I have memories of being by my mom's bedroom door and crying and trying to get her to come out, and she wouldn't come out of her room for weeks at a time. She would be just locked in her bedroom. And
who was taking care of you?
Oh, I was taking care of myself.
Wow, perfect.
Yeah, so
he's got a great. I say a great story. I mean, having been going through it with Nathan, powerful story.
Wow.
Yeah. So go ahead.
So yeah, I was doing my own laundry. I was walking to school. Doing all of that type of stuff. And
What town?
This is all in Manteca.
Okay. All right. So not a small town.
No, it's.
All right.
It was a lot smaller back then than it is now, but yes, it was still bigger than Oakdale.
Yeah.
And this was when I started learning to deal with my emotions with anger.
Okay.
And I got in a lot of fights.
Understandable.
So in this time period, we had moved multiple times. So we get to a new school. There's I get there and there's whoever the bully tough guy is on campus. I'm going and fighting him right off the get.
Marking your territory.
Yeah. That alpha type mentality.
Right.
But now I can identify it as I was just in so much pain. I wanted someone else to feel pain.
Right. Understandable. Absolutely.
So yeah, and during this time period, there was all kinds of people, drug addicts and alcoholics running in, through our house. We went from living in a.
Well, yeah, explain that because you guys got some money when Grandma was murdered.
Yeah, that's where I was getting.
Okay.
We went from a 2-bedroom house to. I think my mom inherited like $500,000.
Wow. Okay. That'll buy a lot of drugs.
Yeah, and so we went into a big 5-bedroom, 2-story house with very little furniture in the house. Like, it wasn't your average house common in the neighborhood.
Right.
Right. So yeah, there was a lot of people hanging around because the money was there.
Right.
And yeah, I remember opening underneath my kitchen sink and there just being all kinds of empty hard alcohol bottles. And Hot Damn was one of the things I remember.
Sponsored by.
That was before Fireball, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Hot Damn.
It's Smirnoff. Or no, not Smirnoff. Yeah.
Is it? I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think it's Smirnoff.
No, neither.
I don't either. Smirnoff was a. What kind of fucking alcoholics are we? We can't remember that shit.
I didn't drink that pussy shit. I was Jack Daniels, dude. I need no cinnamon. I chew gum if I want cinnamon. Chew some Big Red.
Right. So, one of the next things that really happened that was significant was I joined the football team.
Okay.
And
Pop Warner.
Yeah, Pop Warner football. About 8 years old, 9 years old, maybe. And I loved football. I fell in love with football.
Yes,
just kind of like Larry, because you got to. That's what he shared at Friday.
Got the hit, baby.
Primary. You got to hit people, and it's okay to do it.
Right.
It's even encouraged.
Harder you hit,
whack them.
Harder you hit, the more the coach loved you. Yeah.
Yeah. So I played very little the first year, right? My rookie year, and then the next season, I really started getting involved more. The coach actually moved me to running back.
Okay.
And I was at running back for maybe 2 weeks, and my dad's brother stole the coach's car phone.
Was that like the bag phones back then?
Yes, they're.
Is this in the 90s? Like mid 90s.
This was 98, maybe.
Okay.
Somewhere in there, 97.
Right.
And yeah, so the board voted. And they kicked me and my sister off the football team.
Awesome. Because your uncle.
She was in cheerleading. And it's football.
Wow.
Yeah, and so this between my dad's uncle and my dad's brother and my dad, right? This is like where my resentments really started brewing towards my dad's family.
Right.
Yeah, and so I would stand by the fence and watch them practice football every day on my bike and just be crying right there watching that I couldn't be there because that was my outlet, right?
Right.
I hated my home life. I hated school. Because I was always in trouble, which was self-induced.
Right.
But either sat in the back of the classroom or the front, depending on which teacher it was.
So they could keep an eye on you or
put me as far away as possible, right?
Right.
But yeah, then my dad, one day I was at my great grandma's house, which was that great grandpa that I said that I looked up to. My great grandma was where I spent most of my time. And I was at her house one night and my dad comes in and he's been on the run for a while. And
your dad?
Yeah.
Okay.
And coming down probably or whatever, right? And he falls asleep on the couch, and then there's a knock at the door, and it's the cops. And I go wake up my dad, tell him the cops are here. He takes off out the back door, and I open the door, and at this time, I didn't know you didn't have to let the cops in the house, right? But
Yeah.
I did because they asked me if they could come in. Yeah,
Right.
you could come in, right?
Right.
And he climbs up on the roof and jumps off of the roof right in front of a big window in the living room. And
So you see your dad jump.
I see him jump, and I see all the cops and the cop dog all jump on him.
Wow.
And so then I start, that's like where the resentment towards like law enforcement and all of that start right there,
Because they're
right?
taking your dad away.
Right. And he went to prison this time.
Okay.
He had been to county enough times that he ended up going to prison. And yeah, so then it's just me and my mom and my sister. And actually, my brother was born already. They were both born.
And then what's the age difference between you and the brothers?
There's one 11 years younger than me, and that one that's like 12 and a half years younger than me.
Wow. Okay.
And so we all end up moving to Oakdale. And this is in 6th grade.
Okay.
So, 12 years old or whatever.
Foothill.
And
Wasn't Foothill then, though. It was after that. That was junior high,
Oh,
right?
It don't matter. Sorry.
No,
Yeah,
wait,
we're-
sixth grade. Where'd you go to 6th grade at?
Fair Oaks.
Fair Oaks. Okay.
Yeah. And so then, this is my like 7th or 6th, 7th school that I've been to since
God.
kindergarten at this
God.
time. And I come to Oakdale.
Poor thing.
And yeah, self-pity, right?
Oakdale of all people, places.
Yeah, but so I signed up for wrestling right when I got here.
Good for you.
There was a flyer in the
Oh, yeah.
in the mail, and I signed up for wrestling, and I found something else that I loved a
Right.
lot, and that really helped in that one-on-one combat
Right.
that I always seeked in school hours. I finally got to do, right?
Yeah.
And same crap. I got into fights, lots of fights, still dealing with my stuff with anger. My dad gets out of prison and he comes to Oakdale and moves in with us. And
Your mom and dad still married?
yeah,
Were
they actually got married right after he got out of prison so he
Okay.
can move to Stanislaus County.
Oh, okay. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
And so he was on parole, and I was in football again and stuff. And I don't think there were background checks back then for coaches.
Probably not.
And he was one of my football coaches. And
he was sober at this time for a minute, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was completely sober, worked every day, was a decent dad
Good.
at this time.
So you had glimpses of it, of what he could be.
Yeah, he definitely showed me what he could be and what us kids deserved.
Good.
And I loved my dad. I always have loved my dad. I wanted to be around him all the time, and that goes back to like those fishing trips
Right,
and all of that.
right.
And so we went through that football season. The next football season, he wasn't on parole anymore.
Oh,
The day that he got off parole,
Listen to this.
he started drinking.
wow. All right.
And so
And how fast did that go downhill?
oh, it was instant. It was instantaneous. He was full-blown alcoholic all over again. And so during that football season, like, you know how Riverbank High there?
Mm-hmm.
Because it was the Redskins back then, River Oak Redskins. You can see the field from the parking lot.
Right.
And so he'd park where he can see the field, and he would be drinking his beer and watching the game from the parking lot.
A lot of people would do that.
Yeah. And at this time, I'm going and running around with my dad to his shady places and drinking with him. And
now he's introduced you to. I mean, not introduced you to, but I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but he would just, you'd have a beer and he'd have a beer.
Oh yeah,
that was just
yeah. He.
And how old were you?
Junior high.
Yeah, this was junior high.
Wow.
And so for every touchdown that I scored, I got a 32-ounce Miller High Life because they were $1.25 back then.
Wow. What a reward.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I'd score 2 to 4 touchdowns a game.
Right.
I mean, I got enough for me and my buddy.
Right.
Parenting 101.
Right.
Good grief.
And then, going through high school, I didn't really go to the high school parties and stuff. I knew where they was going to end up.
Right.
I knew I was going to end up at a fight at a high school party. There's no doubt about it. So I really didn't do much of that. And I got expelled sophomore year for fighting. So I threw away all of my wrestling, all of my football, all of, I was...
Of course.
Sound familiar, Larry?
Yeah.
I was on varsity as a freshman in wrestling.
All right.
I was in football sophomore year. I got moved up for playoffs for onto varsity.
Sound familiar, Larry?
Yep.
And so everything I had going for me, it was just all thrown away because
Temper.
just anger,
Right.
and pride and ego.
Right.
I wanted to be the biggest, baddest dude that there was, even though I wasn't that big.
Right.
I still was going to show you I'm not scared.
Right.
And so from there, I moved to Manteca shortly after that.
You moved back.
Back to Manteca with my cousins. And
now, how much is drinking and any drugs yet taking a part or have an effect?
Yeah, I started. First time not long after I got expelled, I used meth for the first time, and it was there in summer, and I would do it on a weekend or whatever, and
party drug.
Yeah, and then I noticed it was starting to get out of hand, and I told my girlfriend in Manteca about it. And so I went and moved to Manteca. Geographical change, right?
Right.
And so I did that, and it worked with the hard drugs for a pretty long period of time, actually. But whenever we had a UFC party, and
now were you training with the Diaz brothers about this time?
This is when I started training with Nick and Nate Diaz, because my cousins grew up with them, and so we went and trained. I went and trained every day, and then
were you working? And
I wasn't working really.
Okay.
I went back to school, but it was Manteca One. It was called a One program, and it was for kids that had gotten expelled from high school. I got expelled from the district, not just high school.
Okay.
So there was only a certain type of school I was able to go to, and I got kicked out of there as well.
Good for you. You were going to be the best at something.
My God.
Right.
I see a pattern.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I got expelled for fighting, and I moved to Manteca and went and started training how to fight, right?
Right. Well,
but yeah, so this is when I remember alcoholism really starting. Like, I drank with my dad and stuff, right? That was like the beginning of it. But when I was in Manteca, like I said, there was those UFC fight parties and stuff we would have, and I remember just getting so drunk and being in the bathroom throwing up while the fights are going on and all the, you know, all the real fun is actually going on, I thought, you know, there's a bunch of alcohol showing up. I drank until I was done. And same thing when we went to Vegas. Like there was the night of the weigh-ins and I got wasted drunk as soon as we got to Vegas. And I wake up and everyone's gone at the weigh-ins and I'm like all pissed off because everyone just left without me, right? Blaming everyone else for what I did.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is when, now looking back, I can see when it actually started.
How old were you about this time?
This was 17 or so.
Okay. So you're
17,
traveling to
18.
Vegas at 17. Awesome.
Oh yeah. And you know, I go, the cousins go up to get the drinks and come hand me a drink. And I'm walking around the casino with a drink in my hand. So no one ever says anything because I already have a drink in my hand.
Right. Yeah. Know the tricks. I did them too.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a little different back then than it is today in Vegas.
Right.
They let you get away with a little more than they do now.
For sure.
As long as you're spending money, really, that's all they care. So
yeah, I was doing that back in '88. So they really didn't give a shit back then.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And by this time, by the age of 17, I mean, according to most, I mean, because I've heard a lot of fifth steps and stuff, but you've been through. I mean, you've been through it as a child and
already at 17.
Damaged. I mean, just amazing. Okay, so here we go.
So I end up moving back to Oakdale. The girlfriend moved back with me to great grandma's house. Okay. Right, that was always my place where I always was. Now before I even moved to Manteca, I done packed all my stuff and moved to great grandma's house before. You know, because I wasn't putting up with my dad's and my mom's shit back then. I was out of there. So when I moved back, we eventually break up, and that was my first love, and so after that, you know,
you've lived a lifetime before you even turned 18. You lived more shit by the time you were 18 than most people do their entire fucking life.
And how old were you when we met? Like when you started working for T, we would show up because this is when I was still drinking and doing whatever, you know, because we would have UFC fight night at each other's house and we would tear the fucking house up. And Nate was just, you know, about this age or close.
Yeah, this was right about that time period that I'm at in the story is when me and you met because of watching UFC and having our UFC parties and stuff, right?
Oh, yeah.
We'd go over to Rob's and...
That's when your world went to hell, when you met that guy.
Oh, we had fun.
Oh, yeah. And I had a lot of fun drinking. There's no doubt about that.
Isn't that the sad part? Is that when we had a lot of fun doing it until you didn't. Right, until it stopped being fun.
Yeah, and trying to recapture that fun, that was a lot of the...
For sure.
That was a lot of the relapses that had happened. And thinking I could manage and control my drinking again, right? So yeah, I end up getting sober again, and wait, I never said I got sober yet, right? No. I did get sober. I got sober because I took too many mushrooms one time.
What's too many? What's the number?
It was my second time doing mushrooms, and I took about a quarter ounce of mushrooms.
I wouldn't even know. I've never even seen them.
Usually people take about a half-eighth to an eighth of mushrooms, right?
Psychedelics, baby, sponsored by Psychedelics.
Yeah, and I took a whole quarter. You know,
what did you see? Did you see mechanical elves or anything like that? Like a DMT? It's
always
trip?
more, right?
Yeah, it's always more.
I have a really funny story about that. So this was before me and that girlfriend split up, and we were living in at grandma's house, and she came and picked me up from my buddy's house, and we parked in grandma's driveway, and it's dark, and there's the spotlight coming off the garage, and there's creepy shadows and stuff going on, and I'm starting to go into a very negative, bad trip. And so she calls my mom. My mom shows up, and my dad, and they get me in the van and they take me to the hospital. And as soon as I show up to the hospital, I see all of my family there, like aunts, uncles, everybody there. And I'm like pissed off. Like, what'd you tell everybody about this for, right? She's like, what do you mean? I didn't tell anybody. No one's here. Like, you're tripping.
You see them, but they weren't there.
Yeah.
Right.
It's kind of like your old people.
Uh-huh.
And then we get into the hospital, and I'm
Hold on a second. My old people was a vision from God.
I get it.
His vision was from mushrooms.
I thought about that as I said it, but I was going to let it go.
A little bit different.
I know. You're right. You're right.
And so we get into the hospital, and I'm peeking, hiding behind my mom, and my mom's like, what's going on, right? And I'm like, the trolls over there, they're gonna see me. and she's like, they're not trolls. She's like, that person's deaf. And so there was like a little bit of differenceness that I can see, that you can see, right? And in my mind, because of those mushrooms, made it.
They were trolls.
Yeah, it turned them into trolls. And and I'm like, shh, be quiet. They're gonna hear you. And she's like, they can't hear you. They're deaf. And so like I completely remember that like it was yesterday, man.
That's crazy.
And but yeah, they flushed, gave me that black chalk stuff in the tooth,
Wouldn't know.
like a toothpaste, squirted into a cup and mixed it with a little water and made me drink that stuff and flushed my system out. Came out the same color it went in, both both
orifices.
Yes. And so I got clean and sober right then.
For how long?
It scared me. There was about a 6-month time period, and this is the pattern, that 6 to 8 month pattern that I had of being sober, right? And so my mom and dad were heavily in NA at this time. My mom was for sure. My mom was clean for like 12 to 15 years, and sponsored all kinds of people. And I mean, she had like, 8 to 10 sponsees at the same time at one point. And so I went and tried what she was doing, cause I can see that it was working. And I did really well in that time period. I got a decent job. This was a short time period when I wasn't working for T. Doing electrical and working on a ranch, and before and after work on the ranch. And life was good until I made a decision to go and drink and occasionally started doing some coke. And then I met the kid's mom, my kids' mom, and she wouldn't be with anyone that was like that. Right. And I didn't have a job, eventually lost that job. I didn't have a job for this time period. And this was when T was up north. And I got sober because I wanted to be with her. And so I got a job that day. I got sober that day, started going to Celebrate Recovery.
Where at?
It was back when it was in Oakdale.
Okay.
And so, here goes another 6 to 8 month round.
Okay.
And,
So she got pregnant that time, am I correct?
Yes. And then she got pregnant.
With your help.
Yes.
Yeah.
She did not want to be pregnant, and this was like, she has complications during pregnancy.
Okay.
And so, ended up talking her into it. And so while she was pregnant, me and Rob were just talking about this the other day. We walk into Shively's to get a burger and stuff there, and I was fishing, not joking. At first I said joking, but really I was fishing to see what she would say. And I said, man, I really wish I could have a beer with this burger, right? And she's like, you could have a beer, go ahead.
Oh boy.
And I was like, oh yeah.
Game on.
It was on.
Right.
This is when it really started to became everyday drinking. And
Progression.
Oh yeah.
During this time period, we were still doing these UFC fight parties and stuff. Because I remember when I was with her going over to your house and stuff too.
Those UFC parties were huge in the 90s. Eric used to have those things all the time.
Well, yeah, this was early 2000s.
Okay. Yeah, it's still that. It was big. Anyway.
And we would tear up furniture. We would wrestle.
Right. Yeah. Eric's buddies used to do that shit all the time.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun.
Right.
But yeah, so then, I would started drinking every day, started drinking 20 beers a day.
Yeah. It went fast then.
Yeah. It definitely progressed really fast this time around.
But no hard alcohol.
I would drink hard alcohol, but every time that I brought home a bottle, I'd leave for work, and the next day that shit would be poured down the sink. She wouldn't. I went to a different level when I was on drinking hard alcohol. So she, I guess I was a lot more angry.
Tends to do that.
So I just gave up on drinking hard alcohol and just drank beer. At least when I was around her. And so I would start fights. I'd start fights on purpose so I could take off.
With your girl.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you lived across the street from mom.
Right? Yeah, and I lived across the street from my mom. And so my mom would hear us start arguing, hear my truck peel out and take off, and she'd be worried for the rest of the night until I came home. She told me this, years later. And I would take off to the bar and go, around all the... I thought that I had missed out on a certain time period of my life. I was 22, 23 years old at this time, right?
Yep.
And so I wasn't able to live my young years. I was 22 and she was 30 when we got together.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then became stepdad to two teenage kids. And
you went from nothing to dad.
Yeah. And I thought
immediately.
I had this thought in my
and
life.
You were young.
In my head that my life was over.
Right.
And really my life was just getting started.
Right.
That's everything I want today is what I had then.
Right.
And I just didn't know
shits. That sucks.
Yeah. So yeah, we eventually had our second kid.
2 daughters.
Yeah, two daughters. And one night I was out at the bar. This time around I said I was on a fishing trip. I didn't start an argument. I just said I was going fishing. Because I did do a lot of that back then. And I ended up taking off to the bar, and I went home with a woman and cheated. And
that's hard to come back from.
Yeah, and so Anne had gotten into this fight. My eyes all busted up and stuff, and come home with one shoe and eye all busted up, and
hell of a fishing trip.
Yeah.
How do you explain that one?
Right. I don't remember exactly what I said, because I was completely wasted when I came home. I think I just got in bed and went to sleep. Right. Like, what a dirtbag gets in bed with her right after I just slept with someone else. Like, horrible. But so eventually she found out. She got messages and stuff and found out. I never admitted to it back then. I still denied. And so we split up, and there was this guy that was coming around next door to our house, which is her house now, not mine anymore. And trying to hook up with her and stuff, right? And we were split up, so really she had, she could have done whatever she wanted. It wasn't anything I really could have done about it. And I threatened to shoot him, allegedly.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
Well, I don't remember saying any of this. I was completely wasted, blacked out, and I read the police report. And so that's the only reason why I really know what was said. I guess I said I was going to shoot this guy with my 22, and I didn't even have a 22. I had a shotgun and a 40 cal. I didn't even own one, so I don't know where that came from. But yeah, so I ended up in jail. And then part of the stipulation when I got out of jail was it's like a no harm, no foul ruling, and basically, for the next 3 years, if she so much said that I did something, I'd be doing some pretty good time, right?
Right.
And so I just stayed away.
Smart.
I didn't see my 2 little girls very, very little. And that's when I really started partying hard. And
drinking and drugs, and
that's when the cocaine started coming in, and eventually, the cocaine turned to meth. And there were lots of different times in this time period when I had gotten sober, and it would be that 6-8 months again. Right. You know, I'd stop showing up for work, and I would party for a week, 2 weeks, whatever it was, and then whenever I was ready to come back to work and done, and didn't have money anymore.
Right, money ran out.
My boss would let me come back because I was a good employee when I was there, and I still work for the same guy today. So, yeah, it was just that roller coaster of trying to manage my drinking and using, and eventually it's really just the same story over and over,
right.
And then one day this is when the drug use really, really was getting bad, and those couple weeks turned into months and months. And my buddy, who I'd been in the program with and stuff, he committed suicide.
Was he a guy partying with you?
Yeah, he was one that partied with me and stuff. But
he came to the rooms a little bit. I remember.
Yeah, and he, me and him stopped hanging out with each other because he'd be trying to do good when I was doing bad, and vice versa. And so we kind of distanced away from each other.
Yeah, oil and water.
And yeah, me and him go to the bar like it's on.
Right.
We would wreck. But so he committed suicide, and right when I was the most suicidal I've ever been in my life. I mean, I had a tree out in the middle of nowhere that I already had planned to throw a rope over, right? And he committed suicide in his mom's house. And he just lived with just him and his mom, and his mom's the one that found him and cut him down and all of that. And you'd think that would have been enough to like me to wake up, but it wasn't. It was about a month later, and this is the time period of when also it's been past that 3 years where I can't see my kids and stuff.
Right.
But I wasn't seeing my kids or anything during this time period. I was not even really talking to them on the phone, because when I would talk to them on the phone, I would be in tears and crying and stuff. And so she didn't even want me talking on the phone with them anymore, because there's nothing positive coming out of it.
Right.
It was all
Upsetting
negative.
them.
Yes.
Right.
And I'm thankful for her that she did that and protected those girls. And so eventually, there comes my last drunk, and really I got to go back a little bit, because this is a good part.
Just when you were living in the house when you were living in her house where your buddy committed suicide, and she asked you a question.
No. I'm going to jump back before that.
Okay, good.
Before we get to that,
because that's a good one.
Yeah. So I had a bright idea that I was going to do this geographical change again, and I moved to Vegas.
Yeah. Here we go.
Right. And I was there about 2-3 weeks total, maybe.
Let me ask you a question. I've heard you talk about this. I just want to know, what were you going to do in Las Vegas? I want to know your thought process. I always am curious of people's thought process of moving to Vegas.
So my buddy, he still is, I think, an inspector for the gas lines there.
Okay. All right.
And he had an in to get me in.
All right. So you just didn't make a whim to go driving up there.
No,
Okay.
no.
You had a plan.
Yeah, I had a plan. I had, allegedly had pounds of weed with me.
Allegedly. Good man. Good man.
And went up there, moved in with him, brought my TV, brought all my stuff with me. I was planning on going there and staying there. And Vegas really just chewed me up and spit me right out.
I wonder why.
Is this the part where you lost? Is this the time where you lost the car for a couple weeks?
Yes. And so I was there about a week so far, and I had been parking in the same casino parking lot the whole time because it was free parking, and I was at the casino every night, and so at this particular night I parked in a different parking lot. And so I came across this homeless lady and sat on the bench next to her. I was in complete depression, self-pity at this time, and crying about how I feel and all of my stuff right to her. And she was just sitting there listening to me, and she's just such a sweet old lady. And I said, "Are you hungry? Do you want something to eat?" She's like, "Yeah, let's go to Denny's." And so we go on this walk to Denny's through all these little back routes and everything.
She knows.
Yeah, that she knows I have no clue about. I got completely turned around.
Right. I've been there. I've done it.
Yeah, bought her breakfast, and then when I left Denny's, I was headed back towards where I had parked the whole time, and my car was not there. And I spent a week walking up and down from parking lot to parking lot looking for my car.
Dude, where's their car?
Yeah. So, and eventually I found the car, and I headed back home right shortly after that with my tail between my legs and praying that prayer of I'll never do this again.
911 prayer.
Yes.
Yeah.
And as soon as I got to town, I got some more drugs and some alcohol right when I got to town.
So much for the prayer.
Okay, I made it. Now I'm ready to go off the rail again. So back to right after my buddy committed suicide, and that night of that last drunk was just, I remember blackouts. I was over on the other side of Tracy. This was early morning. Very foggy day. And then all of a sudden I come out of the blackout again, and I'm over on the other side of Patterson.
Fun.
And I come out of it again, and I'm like, over by Oakdale more, and I was completely in self-pity that day, more than I ever have been. And I was mad at my mom for not, this was Thanksgiving Day. I was mad at my mom for not inviting me to Thanksgiving dinner.
I wonder why she didn't invite you.
Yeah. This was 2018. My mom never has had to invite me to Thanksgiving dinner before, right?
Right.
So it was all made up bullshit in my head.
Yeah.
I never made it to my mom's dinner that night. And so I went to, just driving around. I ran into this girl that knew my buddy that committed suicide. And she had said that his mom had been wanting to see me. And this is a month or two after he'd passed. And so I went over to her house. And his kid's mom, he had 1.5, 2-year-old. I think she was about 1.5 at this time. Little baby. And his kid's mom was there as well. And I went and sat down with him, and I drank some drinks and cried and And right when I was about to leave was what I think was my moment of clarity. And we're in the kitchen, and she tells me, "Why don't you get sober so so my son doesn't die in vain?"
Mm.
And I look her right in the eyes and I tell her I can't. And she looks at me and tells me right back, "Well, then tell me you won't, because that's what you're really telling me."
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And then I couldn't tell her that.
Mm.
And so I said I will. Well, I left there, went over to Jason Allen's house, and because I wanted to, I was sick of it. I was sick and tired of being sick and tired, right? And I really wanted to get clean and sober again. And I went over to someone that I know have been doing it for about a little over a year at this time. And I talked to him for a while, and I left there and I still wasn't done.
Mm.
And I drank my last drink was an Angry Orchard, which I absolutely hate. Because his daughter had one in the fridge. And that just so happened to be one of the drinks that my buddy that committed suicide drank.
Mm.
And so it when I was drinking it, I was thinking about him and stuff too, right? And I just left his mom's house and all of this. And I ended up wrecking my car like twice in back roads on this. Ended up getting a ride to the casino. Stayed at the casino all night long. And hitched a ride with someone that had been up all night tweaking, gambling, and going back to Oakdale, and got a ride back home. And my when I got there, I gave all the drugs I had to my mom, and that was like the moment I was done. I surrendered. Like I didn't have my car anymore. I didn't have a job. I didn't have my kids. I was physically, financially, mentally, emotionally, completely bankrupt.
Your ass was kicked.
Yes. And I started going to meetings the next day. Started going to 2 to 3 meetings a day. You know, the days that there were 3 meetings, I would go. Eventually, my mom let me take her car. Gained a little bit of trust back, right? And so I would hit some Manteca meetings and stuff too. And 3 weeks after I get sober, my mom gets diagnosed with cancer. And so really this is like pushed me even more to want to be something that my mom was proud of and not something that she was ashamed of and worried about all the time. And it was a big driving factor for me. So my boss also didn't let me get my job back for 3 months after being sober for 3 months.
Stopped enabling.
Right.
Yes. And I had to be in town because I lived out in the country at this time. I had to be in town to get picked up by him. So I'd have to get rides to town every morning
To go to work.
And I ended up moving in with my buddy that committed suicide, Joey.
His mother.
I ended up moving in with his mom and
Staying in his room.
staying in his old bedroom, and really got to see firsthand what suicide did to a mother and to a family.
And what does it do? What did you see?
Just the wreckage, just all how much they hurt and how much, it. When you're in a suicidal state, you think that everyone would be better off without you, type thoughts, and
it's selfish.
It's completely selfish, really. And I got to experience that's not true. Like how much they love and care about you is
and that was the last time you ever had a thought of, if I'm correct.
I never again had a thought of suicide. Not even.
You were coming into our Monday night group at this time. I remember when you moved in with her.
No,
No,
not yet. No.
Okay, all right.
I might have talked about it.
I think you probably talked about it then because I'd heard that before.
Yeah. So I moved in with her for around 8 months or so, and I eventually stopped going to meetings. The same pattern, right? Except for this time, I didn't pick back up.
Okay.
And I would have those first thoughts every once in a while of drinking, but I never acted on them.
Right.
Like the second thought was always like, "Oh no, that's not a good idea."
But you hadn't worked a step. You hadn't really.
I hadn't worked any steps.
You were just going to meetings.
I remember I had asked you to be my sponsor when I first came in, and didn't do anything. And if every once in a while I'd go back into a meeting and I'd be in tears, I'd be in pain, I'd cry and I'd let it all out, and you wouldn't see me for another month or two.
Right.
And then I was maybe 3 years sober, and I came in because a girlfriend had told me that I had character defects and that's what she called them, was character defects, because she had been in the program before. And I was wanting to fix myself for her because I was in love, right? And so I come in and I start working on myself, and I really don't want to be around her that much anymore. And I start kind of what I've done in relationships. I'll distance myself a little bit and kind of just not be as loving and caring and stuff as I was at first. I'll put up that wall. And eventually we broke up, and I realized I didn't really love her like I thought I did, and I didn't really even like her that much. And then
was she in the program?
No.
Oh.
She had been in NA years back and stuff, but it just was a toxic relationship, really.
At least you noticed it.
She was very attractive. That's what I was wanting. It was lust, not love.
There you go.
And so I start coming to meetings a lot at this time. I'm coming every day. And then comes a time period where my mom is getting sicker and sicker, and so I stopped coming to meetings again about a week, 2 weeks before she passes. But I was always there with her and at the hospice house. And I was able to be there for her emotionally and physically and everything, because of all that time that I had put into working on myself in the meetings. And really I wasn't doing the steps, I wasn't doing the work, but I was learning a lot from listening. I was actually hearing everyone. And so I was just able to be there for her. I spent the night with her, and the last night that she was there, that I was there, I prayed to God that he would take her that night.
That's a rough one.
And he did. That was, I know that was a prayer that was not selfish. That was wanting her pain to end. And she had cancer for over 4 years. So I stopped going to meetings again, and Brad, not a Monday group Brad, the other Brad in the Oakdale Fellowship.
Brad B.
Brad B. He
okay.
He called me and he said, "What's going on, man? Where have you been?" You know, and I'm like, "Oh, I've just been isolating." And he's like, "Well, you know that where that gets us."
Right.
And so a few days later, I passed by the stoplight right there, and look at my clock as I'm passing through the stoplight, and I'm like, it's 6:00, and I'm like, flip it and go to the meeting, and then I started going a lot again, right? And life started getting a lot better again, and during this time period, also, I'm actually being
A dad.
a dad. This is the biggest blessing of sobriety, is being able to be a father today.
Good. Amen.
And you know, being able to go to their soccer games and their cheerleading, which my daughter, I did not want her to do cheerleading. I always thought cheerleading's not a sport, like it's not going to get you anywhere, and all of this and that, right? And
How'd that go over for you?
I have a shirt that says "Cheer Dad" on it. All right, so like no matter what my kids are gonna do, I'm gonna be right there.
Right.
Like I'm gonna back them up. You know, I was just talking about my perspective of God the other day in a meeting, and how when I always thought of God as Father, I always thought negatively towards God because
of the father you
because
had.
of the father that I grew up with, right? But when I think of it as me being a father to my children, and how much I love my children, and how much I will forgive them for anything, and there's nothing in the world they possibly could ever do that would change that.
Right.
And so when I started thinking about it in that perspective, my thought towards God changed a lot. And that's one of my resentments too, is I always had resentment towards God growing up because of my childhood and everything. And so that's something that has definitely changed, is the way I look at God and perceive God. And I have a relationship with God today. But so eventually, right, I get into a emotional state again, where
In sobriety.
This was over 5 years sober. Few months before I had 6 months sober, I hit what I called emotional bottom. And
A few months before you had 6 years sober.
a few months before I had 6 years, yes. And I didn't go to many meetings. I wasn't praying. I wasn't doing any readings. I wasn't doing all of what I knew I needed to do to be sane. And
you were just sober.
Yeah.
Just
Dry.
sober. Dry. Yeah. Miserable.
And so I changed it up. I started going to that Escalon meeting instead of just the Oakdale meeting. And the only reason why I was even going to meetings right now is because I was chairing the Friday night meeting
for like a year and a half. So he had to go.
Yeah. And if it wasn't for that service work, I don't know. Who knows what might have happened.
Spokesperson for service.
That's a good,
get into service.
Good comment. Or good point.
It kept me grounded. That was for sure.
I remember the Escalon meeting you showed up. I remember what you said.
I showed up and I was completely just miserable. I was ready just to quit AA again. I was ready to the only reason why I didn't, because Susan is which I call my AA mom now. She's the meeting secretary, the secretary over all the meetings, right? And so I would have to call and tell her that I don't want to do my meeting anymore. And so like I wasn't going to do that because I had done let people in close to me.
Right.
Like I never had done before in recovery. I never let anyone in. And this time around was different. I got to know people and let them get to know me. And so I show up to that Thursday meeting and I'm miserable. And I go to the Hula's to go get a burger after. And Rob's there getting an ice cream cone.
Fatty.
And so we have a good talk, and I end up asking him to sponsor me, and got through the steps.
Was that the first time you ever asked somebody to be a sponsor?
No, I sponsored him before.
Oh, that's right.
Years before.
No.
He had a couple of them.
No, through these years, I had
multiple
6
or
something like that.
All right.
I do a step and then
Run.
not do anything.
Run.
Yeah. Fire them.
Fire them, but not replace.
Most of the time it was 1 through 3.
Gotcha.
I do 1 through 3, and I was fearful of doing 4.
Uh-huh.
I did not want to bring up like some of the stuff that we had talked about.
Right.
And even deeper than that, I didn't want to bring any of that up. I didn't want to think about any of that. Had been put so far back in my mind that, and then to tell someone else in the 5th step, like
to share,
that's
it takes a lot of fucking courage to do that.
But do me a favor though. We're talking about Susan. She gave it one of the best, because I love words matter. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows how I feel about words, and
I agree with
and
you.
the Robisms that I have a lot of. But Susan gave one of the best quotes I've ever heard in my life to you that really touched you. And it every time I think about it, would you please share that?
Yes, this was definitely key. One of the key things.
Pissed you off, but good.
Yes, of course. My natural instinct is to turn to anger. Right? I don't have alcohol anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So, she text messaged me, "The magic that you are looking for is in the work that you are avoiding."
That's powerful.
Yeah, I love that.
That is incredible.
And it did piss me off. And she says she knows it pissed me off because I didn't message her back, and I always message her back.
But that's love right there. That's love.
100%.
I mean, as far as your AA
Holding
mom,
you accountable.
she's absolutely fills that role.
Right.
Amazing woman. But to love you that much to piss you off, that's what we.
You have to be willing to piss somebody you love off. You got to be okay with that. Katie and I are completely okay with pissing each other off. It's how we get through shit.
Well, I mean, it's our
how
motive. But that was love. I love that.
It's
quote.
not
Say
our
that again,
motive
one
to
more time.
piss them off.
The magic you are looking for is in the work that you are avoiding to do.
Yep.
That's powerful.
That's the steps. And then now talk about how your life has changed since we did that. The steps. I mean, because what God, and this is where we're probably, and if we want to get into the topic, I really want to touch on this, but what is the difference? I mean, 5 years and then you had this emotional,
Yeah. So, after going through the steps, after doing that 4th step and doing the 5th step,
and what was that like?
We talked about what
the fears you had of the 4th step, and those. As when you were going through them, do you think, man, did I make too much of this, or what was it like going through the steps? I mean, tell people
definitely.
what you experienced.
The fears that I had of doing them were far greater than what it was. Like,
we make that shit up in our head.
Oh yeah, like the saying, "We make a mountain out of a molehill."
Yes, sir.
It's no doubt. Like,
right.
I made it out to be such a bigger deal, and the relief that came after doing it was far greater than any of those fears. But it was like when the pain is worse than what's that saying?
When the pain when the pain we're in becomes greater than our fear of change,
right?
Yes,
we change.
Yes, so that's what happened.
You were in pain,
and so after doing that 5th step. And sharing with you a couple things that I have never shared with anyone in my whole life. It was relieving. And like we talked about this the other night in the meeting as well, but I had felt like that raw nerve was exposed. And so I had an uneasy feeling for a week or two. But after that, it was just all relief. Mm-hmm. And especially my doing the steps 6 and 7 and praying for my character defects to be removed, all of them, good and bad. And as far as like my relationship with God goes now, I pray every morning, every night, most of the time throughout the day. If not like throughout the day is not like your typical prayer. It's more of just talking to God.
Like we are.
Yeah.
That's right. Because it's a relationship.
Right.
And you have a great relationship now.
Right.
With your Father.
Yeah.
Heavenly Father.
Definitely. And I thank him for his, most of my prayers are just thanks.
Mm.
I thank him and I pray for others. And rarely is there anything in there for me that I pray for. It's well, the promises say we will not be self-seeking, right? And I completely feel that way today. I feel like all of those promises have came true,
and will continue to.
Yeah, and
some slowly, some quickly.
If we work,
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
which we'll get into.
Mine definitely was a lot slower. But yeah, man, this life is a totally different deal today.
But since you did the steps, God has, because now there's another avenue that's opened up, another depth, another relationship. God has used you to. You've spoken how many times in the last 3 months?
Yeah. So right after I went through the steps,
what'd you tell God about your Friday night meeting?
And this was January 1st. My commitment was up on the Friday night meeting, right? And I said, I am done with service. I've done a year and a half of chairing this meeting, and I'm done. And 2 weeks later, I got asked to speak.
I was going to ask, how'd that work out for you?
Yeah.
Tell God your plans.
Right.
I got asked to speak in Escalon. Then I got asked at that Escalon meeting to speak at Modesto, the rehab in Modesto. And then I got asked to speak at the Lakes the week after that. And then recently I just, someone asked me to be their sponsor.
Mm.
And then got asked to come on here,
right.
Right after that had happened. So, God definitely has a funny sense of humor, I think. He's like, oh yeah, you're done with service? I'll show you.
Right. Yeah. Like Rob said, give him your plans.
Yeah, he'll laugh at you. Tell you why you want to make God laugh. Tell him your plans. Watch this.
But, that's why I say whatever, right? Whatever you want. Mm-hmm. Whatever you want. Show me, right? Show me.
Yeah, I definitely, I'm not going to say something like that again, but, but I'm enjoying this. I enjoy speaking in front of a crowd of people.
It fills your soul.
Yeah, and there's been a couple people that had came in from the Lakes to the Oakdale Fellowship recently, and
because let's face it, not many people. I've heard a lot of fifth steps, baby. Not many people have been through, like Larry said, when you before age of 18, you've lived a life. Pain. Right. You've experienced more than most people have, and look where you are. Most of them don't make it here. Most people that have lived your life to 17 are in prison,
right,
and will be there. But you chose something different,
Jails,
man. That's it. You've got an amazing story, especially to go into those places and tell it. Because most people, what do we think? When you don't know what I've been, you don't know. Right. Then they hear Nathan's story, like, I better shut the fuck up because this young man's has lived, and is here to.
And here's the thing with Nathan's story that I appreciate so much, because Nathan's story is what I heard when I got into rehab. Right, I heard Nathan's story, and I'm like, that's not me. That's not me. Why the fuck am I here? I didn't have that trouble stuff. My dad drank. At a very young age, I had a beer too, but I didn't have that stuff that Nathan went through. I didn't have all that. I'm not an alcoholic until I stopped looking at the differences and started looking at the similarities and go,
I drank just like that.
Fuck, I drank just like that. My depression was like that. I drank like that. I did the stupid shit that he did. Just because our paths were different doesn't mean that we're any different of an alcoholic, right?
Right.
And once I realized that, and I shut my thoughts off of to judging the differences in the alcoholic, the differences, man, I opened up to a whole other realm. And when our book tells us we're like passengers on a wrecked ship, right? We're all in the same. We're all
page 17.
Yeah, we're all alcoholics. We're all living this.
whether you live in a mansion or you live in a cave.
Yale or jail.
Matter. Yeah, yell or jail. I mean, it doesn't matter where you came from. We're all alcoholics. We're all living the same disease. And how we get there, the way you speak to people, how I speak to people, the way Rob speaks to people, we have to have differences of the way we speak to people.
There's people we can't touch.
Right.
That he can.
Nathan will. Absolutely.
Yeah, I love it.
There's people that we can't touch that Brad will or Doug will or Pat will or just, and that's the beauty of this AA, right? If I'm talking to somebody and I'm not getting anywhere with them, fine. Let me get you somebody else.
Oh, hey, and yesterday, speaking of that, at the Saturday morning meeting, which I went to, there's a guy who must have been at the Friday night. I don't remember him there at the Friday night meeting the night before, obviously. And he had shared, I remember, because the talk of steps came up and he shared it. And goes, I talked to Larry. He was, because he just got out of Maynard's with old Jed the millionaire.
Okay, yeah. His name's Warren.
Lauren.
Lauren. Yeah.
Big guy.
Big guy. Yeah. He was with Jed.
Like you, big guy.
Yeah.
And he said, and I talked to Larry, which was you. And he said, no, fuck that. Get in there, get into action, get them things done now. Don't take your time, because that's what, your best thinking got you here, motherfucker.
Right.
So
that's exactly why I told him. Right.
So
yeah, it's
you good? What else we got before we come back for another? We got to do a topic here coming up.
We're gonna bring you back. One of the things you talked about a little bit is how you went so far to do your steps. We're gonna come back and we want to dig into that a little bit more, right? We're gonna use that as a
recommendation
topic
on what you would have done
differently. Yeah, we're gonna use that as a little bit topic.
Springboard.
We knew the stories normally take about an hour and a half, and we're about there. I mean, unless you have something else you want to bring in that you feel like you may have left out. Here's the one thing that we definitely want in our podcast, and I have a habit of doing this. I have a habit of cutting people off, and then, oh man, I didn't get to say
we didn't
this.
really talk to. We let Nathan do that.
I did. I kept my mouth shut. Which, yes, you're welcome, Doug. I did. And because I'm very bad about interrupting, because I want to know more. I want to know more.
Thank you for joining us today.
And that's the reason why I want to bring you back, because we're going to come back. We're going to talk a little bit about the sponsorship side of things, right? Not so much the sponsorship, but waiting so long to start doing your steps. And we're going to talk about that a little bit, because I know people that have done the same thing.
And the danger of that.
The danger of it.
And I'm going to tie into a few things here.
Right. So unless you got anything else, Nathan, we're going to cut this. We're going to let our listeners digest this. There's not going to be much editing to do on that front. Right.
And if you want to, at the end of this fight, Recovery Unfiltered podcast at gmail.com.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you. Remind me to say that more, would you? It's your fault I don't say it more than what I do.
I suck. What are you going to do?
Fucking guy, man. God damn it. You're a horrible partner.
I do the best I can. Pray for me, motherfuckers.
I'll pray for you. All right, Nathan, anything before we get out of here on this one?
Nope.
You're good.
That was a good story.
That was good. I enjoyed that, Nathan. It was good to get to know you a little bit better, right? I haven't really heard your fourth. When did you come in, before we leave? When did you come in to the Oakdale group? At what point in your story was that after you and Rob went through your steps?
No, before.
It was before? Yeah, because when you came
when he first came in at first, like when we were at Kevin's place.
Right. You were struggling.
Yeah, that was a few years back.
Right. Yeah, it was about 2 years ago. Yeah.
I think it was Jason or Aaron
Jason Allen. I think it was Aaron.
Aaron brought it. Yeah.
Yeah. But I know that Jason came a few times when we talked about you being there. So Jason showed up to see you. I talked to Jason. I saw Jason yesterday. I told him you were going to be on here. Yeah. Jason's a character. All right, let's get out of here. We'll be back next. Oh God! Will you stop punching that one,
motherfucker? I got no buttons. Sorry about the effort over there. Sorry about that.
I said one.
Yeah, I'm proud of you.
I said one.
What are you doing that one for?
Thank you for joining us today.
We hope you learned something today that will help you. Yeah.
If you did not, come back next week.
If you didn't learn nothing, we don't care. If you like what we heard, give us a 5-star review. If you don't like what you heard, kiss my ass. You can't say that, can you? Anyway, if you don't like what you heard, go ahead and tell us that too. We'll see what we can improve. We probably won't change nothing, but do it anyway.
Hey, thanks, Rob. Come back next week, and hopefully something will be different and something will sink in. Take care.
This has been Recovery Unfiltered.